Our match of the day lived up to the billing. I do wonder whether or not our final game will do the same. Bliss versus Wildcard coming up very shortly, and all of a sudden, storylines galore in this match as well. Wildcard, so much to play for in this game. Suddenly, their life is still very much alive. For Team Bliss as well, they haven't obviously been too much of the talk here tonight, but technically, they, kind of need to do pretty well in this match, Dev, as well, if they want to keep up for the race for top spot.
Very much so. Bliss did beat Chiefs, but they lost tonight, so they need every single point they can get to book that #1 spot and that insta-lock into the grand final. This is an important game for both teams, but let's talk Bliss for a moment. They came out of nowhere this year. They played in relegations, end of 2020. They stormed through that, came first, which earned their spot in OCN for 2021, and then surprised everybody. They got picked up by the organization, Bliss. They have not been playing in APAC South like your teams like Wildcard, Order, Chiefs, and Knights, but they have been making the most of OCN. In fact, they have already booked their spot in the OCN Promotion Relegations Tournament to go into APAC South at the end of this year. They might be knocking out a team like Wildcard or Order to take that spot. And at this point, they almost need no introduction. Some serious big hitters on this team, from veterans like Shade and Todd to young gunners like Repix and the newly acquired Jigsaw, who has really been putting his name forward for Rookie of 2021.
Well said, Dev. Let's go and have a look at their opponents for tonight. In last place at the moment, it is Wildcard Gaming, who, of course, like it's been this year, a bit of a struggle this stage, but a chance. They've got themselves an opportunity to maybe still make playoffs, to maybe still even avoid relegations if things go their way. But Vast, so much would have to go their way. And on top of that, going up against a team like Bliss, surely they're the heavy underdogs here.
Yeah, it's really rough seeing Wildcard in the situation they're in. A year ago being one of the most dominant ANZ teams, and now they've, facing relegations, and it's really scary. On paper, this roster is full of really good players, and, I think the experience they have as well, it's just hard to see why they're kind of in this situation. Sure, they had a rough stage one having to play with their coach, but after that, they picked up Milo, who is a really good player, and we thought from there that there would have been a lot of growth and they would have overcome a lot of odds, but it just seems like they're kind of stuck in this rut, facing the same issues, and they themselves aren't really sure how to get out of it.
Yeah, it's a tough rut to get yourself out of when you're at the very bottom of the standings. It's a team that has the talent, though, Dev, I think, to still mix it with the best, but we're not quite seeing enough of it. We think back to Playday 2, they defeated Order at the time. We weren't sure what that really meant. As the stage has kind of gone on, we realized it didn't really mean too much, because Order themselves are in the bottom two and now out of the playoffs. Is the mountain too big here in this matchup, going up against a team like Bliss?
Look, the mountain is certainly big. Is it too big? Hard to say. They've had some pretty strong results recently. I'm thinking, for example, their win over Elevate in APAC South. Elevate, historically, really good team. After we saw that, we're like, okay, Wildcard, like, Clubhouse is your map. This is clearly your best map. Teams will just ban that and then you won't have a shot. So when we saw Overt take Wildcard to Club yesterday, we were like, all right, Overt, getting a bit greedy here. Wildcard got slapped 7-2. So this team is almost the definition of inconsistent, right? And Bliss is definitely the definition of consistent. They won every single game in Stage 2 up until they played Knights last night. Even that was a close 5-7, and it was to Knights. Like, you can't be faulted for losing to Knights. Wildcard definitely the underdog here, definitely not favored, but they definitely need the win.
That's a lot of definitelys in there. That's definitely sure of that one. Let's go and have a look at the maps for this final match of the night. It's Chalet, a little bit of a mix, a bit of a twist. Nice to see something a bit different from Villa. And we didn't want back-to-back clubs, let's be real. So I like this, though, to close off the night. I'll go to you first, Bast. I'm sure you've got the match tracker up, ready to go, and all your stats. What's your thoughts on this one?
Don't have the match tracker. I'm just going to kind of wing it here a bit. But this video was pretty difficult kind of for me to read into. I did think, though, Chalet was a good map for Wildcard. We saw them play it quite recently, and they, I really liked. Yeah, I really liked the way they were playing Chalet. Like, they're really fast entry, their good use of drones around the map. They just look really good on it, and I think this is a perfect map. Bliss, They can play this map. I don't think it's their most dominant map. They can play it, so it's definitely not going to be a stomping for Wildcard. But I think they've definitely won the veto here.
Well, we're kind of ready to go here, so I'm just going to go straight back to you, Vars, for your predictions.
Yes, my predictions. I predict Bliss to win quite dominantly, probably 7-4 fashion.
Rightio then. Well, let's head straight into Chalet for our final game of the night. Bliss versus Wildcard. A lot on the line here for this particular matchup. Of course, Wildcard, they must win. It's pretty simple. They need all 3 points as well. Even an OT win won't be enough. And for Team Bliss, well, they want that fight for top spot. Whether it's number 1, whether it's number 2, they will need to, of course, win to keep up with the race against the Chiefs and the Knights. Let's head to the snowy Chalet for our final game of the day.
There is no doubt this is a loaded match. Bliss should have this in the bag, but Wildcard have not shown a lot of Chalet in the past. The only time they've ever played it in an official was when they beat Order 7-2 just a few weeks ago. Huge potential for Wildcard here. While we did technically say that they are locked in for relegations and locked out of playoffs, technically not true. Technically, if they beat Bliss here, thanks to Rufflecopter beating Overt, as long as everything goes their way next week, they can make it. But they have to win every single game, get every single point. It's looking dire. Wildcard take out the Thatcher. Likely the Valk to follow. Tends to be their favorite defense ban. I like the Lion ban from Bliss as well. Mai's going to make it a little bit more difficult to hold on to those shields. Mirror band. Okay, Valk left in. One of the rare games we see Wildcard let that slip through. Might be able to enable some aggression from both teams on their defenses because of it.
Well, let's head into our final game of the night. Not sure if it's going to be capable of living up to the Ruffle Avert. See if it can do its best. Of course, Wildcard on the defense first, Bliss on the attack. Expectations are all entirely on the shoulders of Team Bliss to do well in this game, to win well, and to put Wildcard, I guess, out of their misery, because they're kind of clinging on to life here. But in saying that, if Wildcard win this game, get all 3 points, suddenly, when you take out a team like Bliss, you will be able to sort of ride that momentum going into next week, and who knows what could happen. So your hardest match, ironically, is first in the line of how many matches you're going to need to win. This is the hardest one out of all of them. You win this, then you got to beat Ruffle, then you got to beat Rhythm. It's pretty simple. It almost gets somewhat easier as it goes on in a way. The HP Omen community vote says it's a 74% chance of a Team Bliss victory, courtesy of those voting along at home. Of course, R6 Esports OCE on Twitter. Make sure you give them a follow. Wonderful bunch of people running that wonderful account. Let's get into it, though, for our final game.
Crazy to think Bliss is so heavily favored against Wildcard here after Wildcard developing such a dynasty over the years as the #1 team in OS. Even with 4/5 of this roster, they won OCN 2020 quite handily. Didn't drop a single game. And now look at where they are. Bliss are the new generation. They do love some Chalet. Let's see how they do. This is a map rather. Both teams have added to their map pool fairly recently. As we test out Bliss's Solarium attack onto this kitchen bomb site.
And honestly, the expectation here is on Bliss to set the tempo, especially on the attack here on Chalet, for the most part, to get out early, get in the face of Wildcard. And therefore, for Wildcard, they need to do this. They need to be the aggressors and find picks. Imarin with the Nitrocell elimination onto Shade says hello.
Wow.
And welcome to our Chalet.
I just realized that's quite an angle up through the floorboards from inside kitchen and onto that window. However, Jigsaw finally secures that kill onto the downed Molosca. Using the breaching round from the Ash. Vinny, though, does take down Todd, and my God, Wildcard are really bringing the heat.
Bomb located by attacker.
Great start. Long way to go. We're only into the first round, and that round hasn't even concluded yet, but good signs. It's all about building good habits, though, isn't it, really, along the way from the first round to the last Bliss are a team, though, that sometimes in matches do drop the odd round here or there, but then they just bounce back easily. And they can still do so in this particular round when you've got players like Repix, Jigsaw, still alive. Odin, he's more than capable of fragging out as well. Repix actually straight into Kitchen, just catches Pat completely off guard here. Now they've got site control as well in Dining. He can plant, and he's got cover. Gio and Vinny, I just think a little bit too slow to maybe rotate over the site. This plant is going to be successful, and Bliss are going to have that man advantage.
So difficult now for the retake. Jigsaw's got the angle. Vinny's got the vert, but Gio shut down. This is where Vinny needed to be 30 seconds ago when that plant was going down. Now he's got a 1-on-2 on his hands. Not a lot of health to work with. This crossfire is just about impossible to walk into. He's a dead man walking. Even some nutty shots would not likely win it for him here. In the crossfire, Bliss starts strong despite Wildcard opening that round up. Bliss just did not let them breathe.
Yeah, and this is why you can't get ahead of yourselves too quickly there, Dev. Maybe a bit of a lesson there for you. You can do some good things, you can get off to a good start, but the ending matters more than the start, 9 times out of 10. Sure, there's rounds where maybe you get that 2 or 3 man advantage early on in a game and then you are able to win off of that. But how many times have we seen teams start well in a round, then only for the other team to sort of bring it back? Especially a team like Bliss, especially when Jigsaw's still alive, Repix, Oda, what they're capable as a sort of 3-man, and they put it on their full display to be seen. But ultimately for Wildcard, there are good signs there that they can take from that round. But good signs don't win you games. You can have good signs for the, first 2-3 rounds, but then if you're down 3-0, what is that going to do for you? Unable to capitalize there, and that's a round that goes begging. And a team I know that had a couple of rounds like that was Avert in our last match on Clubhouse. They had good games, they had good rounds, but they never quite got that win. They said, okay, in this case they lose a 1v2, or, hot shot through the hatch. There's those little moments will come back to bite you. That's one round Wildcard had a chance. They let slip. Bliss aren't going to give you many chances.
5 seconds to go.
Like the heavy info denial here from Wildcard. The Bliss have shown, like you said, they take their chances, but they're also just so good at identifying weaknesses, even when they're at a disadvantage. The way that they rushed site last round, we're likely to see much more of that. They'll identify a weakness and just pounce. It won't take long at all. Nice repel from Jigsaw, trying to open up that mudroom door to put a little bit of extra pressure on. Bliss have a lot of players all around the map. They're not hard committing to any one thing. They're keeping their options open, starting by just shooting down a lot of these doors, a lot of these barricades.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
This Wildcard safety net slowly peeled away as Bliss still figure out where they want to push. They're not looking to take the entire from Solarium across as would be most traditionally done on this bar attack. They're instead looking to go a little bit more aggressive.
Just under 2 minutes. Bar games, of course, with a pretty standard hold here from Wildcard, not really offering too much in terms of innovation. I think Chalet, to a degree, has probably not really offered much innovation as of recently, since it originally came into the map pool. Oda finds an opening pick onto Vinny.
Oh, I like this. Todd's going to use that fire bolt to maybe push Emo out of position, but Emo was already pushed up. Now he's making an aggressive play, but Shade does find his head for it.
Attackers have dropped the bomb
Bliss
diffuser.
playing really slow, just lurking. They're mostly just relying on the perceived pressure, and it's
This round's
working.
over.
Wildcard are giving them fights.
Why are you peeking that window, though? You just don't need to at this stage of the game. The whole point at this stage, the round's over, but the whole point really at that stage is to defend top of library, to defend the mezzanine, and to defend library. Instead, what Wildcard are doing is just swinging big window and just dying because, well, Bliss obviously are going to be watching this position. So if you're just going to slow crouch walk into that position, you can't expect seriously to be winning that fight. And that's, I think, a sign as to why Bliss is a team that's going to be fighting for top spot and fighting for APAC South, and Wildcard's heading to relegations.
Honestly, it just looked like Bliss knew exactly what Wildcard were going to do, and Bliss kind of didn't need to do anything. Yes, I mean, sure there's a lot of complexity going on that we didn't really see there, and I couldn't see everything, but what it looked like Bliss did is they just started to peel away at the safety net Wildcard had set up, a lot of barricades, and just slowly started to sit on just about every window possible and kind of wait. They would just very lightly prod Wildcard into taking an opportunity, making a play, and then Bliss would punish. And then Wildcard would be their numbers disadvantage, which when you're at a disadvantage, you have to make a play, right? Otherwise, the other team is just gonna really strangle you out. So Wildcard made plays, Bliss punished the aggression. It just looked like Bliss were reading Wildcard like a book, like a book that they wrote.
Yeah, and to be fair for Bliss as well, you know, they sort of made that kind of happen as well to a degree. But it's not like anything Wildcard did there was anything special, and then they made some mistakes and they punished it. But that's what good teams do, right? They're going to punish those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to call it necessarily a mistake. Obviously, like, it didn't work, but
I think if you're swinging there like that is probably not the best play.
Yeah, I think that what Bliss did is, I feel like Wildcard were feeling pressured, even though they weren't. I think Bliss somehow managed to just build this perceived pressure onto Wildcard, and it just blew Wildcard away. And with Wildcard have already made quite a lot of changes here, like Frost in for the Goyo, you got the Valk in for the Mozzie, the Mute in for the Alibi. So already quite a few op changes. They're likely going to play this differently. Wildcard just need to honestly, like, not play into what Bliss are doing, and they should be able to take this round.
Yeah, and that's really what you want. If you're going to repick a site that you just got flawlessly wiped on, you're going to obviously need to make some changes. I mean, I don't know really where else they're going to really go. Maybe Master Office could have been an option, but Bar Games is statistically always a good site for defenders. Shade makes his way into Office, and they can obviously now get to work trying to open up top library stairs, get that mezzanine control. Both shields still available and still up, by the way, minute 45 remaining. So that's decent. That's decent for Wildcard, right? They can play off of those shields at top of library and the chimney on the mezzanine. So vert control looking much better here from Wildcard. Just don't get baited into what's happening elsewhere. Force Team Bliss into sweeping top down.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really good info here for WC. You look at that Black Eye Valk cam. In Office, Pat's on it. Pat's got so much info. Not sure they can enable C4s off this, but at least they'll know where the pressure's coming from. They will have the read on Bliss instead of the reverse.
Yeah, and suddenly time becomes a factor now as well.
Yeah, Bliss are going to move. Like, Wildcard can sit here and wait. Oh,
what?
They do move. And they move even further. Bliss just win 2 fights.
No, they're not supposed to. No.
3 fights.
What? No.
They're gone. See you later, Wildcard.
What?
Emo versus 5.
Oh, this is not fair. Like, I thought Wildcard was doing pretty good, to be honest. Amarin's trying to make something of this, but he obviously understands he's in an absolute pickle here. Stuck inside a bar, and he's on very low health. I think Oda flashed himself, yeah. That was unfortunate, but wow, what a round. Speechless in a way. I think Wildcard actually didn't do that much wrong. Bliss just hit some great shots.
Very, very well played. Almost a flawless round for Bliss. It was a 5v1, so that's just about as flawless as you can get aside from some consolation frags for Emo. But yeah, again, like, I'm going to agree with you. I don't think Wildcard played that poorly that round. I don't even think that like Bliss kind of baited Wildcard into feeding them picks. I think Bliss just somehow won a lot of fights they maybe shouldn't have. You could put that down to Wildcard, like maybe if they didn't open as many long angles, like the attack is going to be favored on these long angles. You talk about like the guy who got absolutely domed in library from the balcony, the mezzanine balcony. Yeah, like Bliss are going to be favored in that. They've got the ACOGs, they've got the magnified sights, they're going to win those fights. But Wildcard like should be forcing Bliss to use utility on clearing these positions. You talk about top library stairs, like that's known to be a position that takes utility to clear. I don't think Bliss even did. I don't think they burned that ADS. I don't think they destroyed the shield. They just somehow took all the fights. Bit grim for Wildcard, isn't it? I mean, if this is how they go out,
it's
if
really
this is how
grim.
they get sent to relegations, what can you say for them?
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, but like, what can you really do in that situation there? You kind of play that as well as you can, and then you just lose some absolutely bang on shots there to Bliss.
This is where it really puts the pressure on the rest of the season, right? You know, Wildcard have had some pretty gut-wrenching losses. The last 2 Playdays, Overt and Rhythm, teams that they should have beaten, that they needed to beat, they couldn't. And that's why the game that sends them to Relos may well be here, one of their toughest games against Bliss, because they couldn't cut it against the teams they needed to beat.
Not all hope is lost yet, though. Only 3 rounds have gone. So many games where, you know, the first opening 3 rounds don't necessarily tell the full story, but it is hard to see where Wildcard are going to find an impact. 3 players still on a donut, by the way, and Gio will stay on that donut. Oda with the opening pick. That's another thing that has been, I guess, a common theme in this match so far is the opening picks here for Team Bliss. That's 3 in a row now. 3 of the 4 rounds that have played out, they've had the opening picks, and they've capitalized on both times that they've had that opening pick. So a trend establishing here, and just under 2 minutes left. They've got that man advantage, and they've got a lot of time to really capitalize on it.
Bliss, once again, not really going too crazy. They're just holding positions, waiting for aggression, slowly but surely making progress. They have Solarium control, they have Bathroom control, they have just about all the control they need to really make an execute here. And they're really starting to put pressure on. They're not over-peaking though, like Repix could overextend here and die, but he's not.
Nitrocell goes out. Moloska, though, he can't win that fight. Finally, Vinny's able to win a couple. Nice little double onto Todd and Rapix. Makes it a 3 versus 3. Vinny up to 4 kills now. It's really the Vinny and Emorin show for Wildcard. Outside of that, the others are in no man's land. Still a minute left, though. It's a 3 versus 3. Hard breach available through Shade. They've also got the flank watch through Oda. Although the air jabs have already been deployed. Jigsaw now up to 3 kills. He's slowly cooking up a good game here on Chalet. Vinny gets taken down. And now time for Bliss to overwhelm the duo of Wildcard.
Emo's got a shield to play off and the TCSG, but this Vert is going to make it very difficult. Oda needs to not bleed a pick here though. 25 seconds to go. Emo so close. Pat's also down here and still alive as well. The flashbangs are deadly, and Wildcard are blind.
They have no way to deal with that shield, though, and that is going to be a large obstacle that they need to overcome. Jigsaw, how about you just kill your opponent? He does that pretty well, doesn't he? Headshot onto Pat. Shade now can get that plant. Emorin inside a hallway. He just swings behind. He spots one, but it's Oda. Somehow he wins that one, too! Watching it from the replay, watch the little flick. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I, for a second, thought it was more of an actual like 180 dev, but I guess not. Still, nonetheless, 4-zip to Bliss.
Look, Bliss, it's a bit of a game of team deathmatch at the moment. They're just farming, just you know, working on their CS and getting the job done. Wildcard not putting up a lot of a fight. Vinny had a nice 2-piece, but aside from that, Wildcard have not had a leg to stand on, and it's really gut-wrenching to watch, honestly. This was an okay map for Wildcard when they took down Order, but they are facing an entirely other pedigree of competition right now. That is Team Bliss, the rising stars of 2021, Oceanic Rainbow Six. They're already looking to be qualifying for APAC South 2022. They may well steal Wildcard spots out of that league, as well as putting Wildcard into relegations in this very match right now.
Yeah, and it's devastating as well because obviously things went the right way for Wildcard. Like, if we live in a world where Overt had got at least 1 point and made it impossible for Wildcard to do anything,
yeah,
I'd probably be like, yeah, this makes sense, right? Like, there's nothing that they can actually do. There's nothing they can fight for. But you are literally fighting to stay alive to make playoffs. And by winning this game, you would actually go in with a lot of confidence to then beat Ruffle next week. Now, all of a sudden, if they do lose this game, Ruffle's just going to have a field day next week, right? They're just going to run all over Wildcard. So you're then nervous if you're Vert, because they have to then play the Chiefs, who have never lost 2 in a row in OCN. So suddenly, things are really falling the way of Rufflecopter, and for Wildcard, everything's falling apart.
And Bliss are happy to just lap this up, aren't they?
Yep.
They're a team that currently sitting in 3rd place. You know, they bled a point when they played Order on account of only winning that in overtime. And now Bliss are going to have to play catch-up with Chiefs and Knights. Hope that they can take their final 2 games without dropping a single point, and also hoping that the Chiefs and Knights will suffer a little bit. This is also a turning point for Team Bliss. We're seeing them right now play Chalet, a map that was not in their pool come Stage 2 Grand Final. The map that they lost the Grand Final on and were embarrassed, put in their place by the Chiefs. And now they're just putting Wildcard back in theirs.
This is unfair. Unfair. Shay does die, but he got Moloska just before falling to the trade of Geo.
Oh, they had 2 people run out to try and tank the air jab the second one. Yeah, I was a bit confused what happened there. I was like, why did he not get air jab? But, I mean, that's a pretty expensive kill there. It cost Milo's life.
Oh, Jigsaw is just going to town right now here on Chalet. He has such a good track record on this map. Geo absolutely lit up, even with the suppressor.
I feel like Geo needs to put a little bit more pressure onto this window. Jigsaw feels very, very safe, especially because only the left side of the barricade is destroyed. And Geo does finally take down Jig. Now that's a big deal now for Wildcard. 3v3 is very, very winnable. Bliss no longer have the man advantage. Good bit of info destroyed there with that Valk cam. There's also a way that they can make an execute work, but they don't have any way to breach this wall. Geo still has a C4 as well.
Just under a minute remaining. Vinny gets Rapix. Maybe this could be the opening round win for Wildcard. Can they capitalize? Todd swings, shoots. He is successful. Gets that kill onto Vincier. Imarin and Geo still alive though for Wildcard. It's Oda and Todd. Todd though taken apart. Geo's got 3. Old Geo making himself known. He's gone missing for a little while, but just shows up here when it matters the most. 30 seconds left. 8-0-1 Oda. Don't count him out yet. I think he might have a bit of info. No. Still going to clear this bed position anyway. He knows there's a player there. Geo's taken down. He gets shot at by Imarin, but not enough to get that knockdown. 18 seconds left. Deals with a Sawyer Gate, but Imarin turns the corner and gets the headshot. Whew. Wildcard finally get a round win.
They are finally on the board here, and there is a lot more work to do, but every marathon starts with that first step. Wildcard, they need to get back into this game, otherwise relegations are waiting on the horizon. That was a nice play from Wildcard, an expensive pick. It was really Geo who saved this round. Oda gave it a really good shot though. And the fact that the only round Wildcard have won is a 1v1 clutch certainly shows you how much Bliss are in control of this match. Back to bar games we go. Bliss have won this attack handily for 2 rounds, one of which was flawless, the other was a 5 versus 1. Wildcard need to show more on bar games.
And even if they do get this 6th round here in the opening half, I still question their ability on the attack to break down a Bliss defense here on Chalet. It remains to be seen though. I've seen funnier things happen, but if they are to do it, they need Moloska and Pat to really stand up here, get a little bit more involved, especially Moloska, probably even more so than Pat. Pat's fine, he's on the support, that's okay, but Moloska 0 and 5, probably not good enough.
Definitely been a struggle for some of these wildcard players. Died every round. Haven't found anything for it. I mean, to be fair, Milo was bait for Geo last round. He can't be too upset about that one. He was air jabbed. Pat has definitely been struggling though in that anchor position. Really left out to dry time and time again. Was once again looking to go for a very similar kind of attack, just pressure mounting all over. Jigsaw just loves this bloody position outside these 2 windows.
Well, you can put so much pressure on like 2 key areas, piano and that library hallway, and you don't obviously have to really move.
You can see he's practiced it a lot though, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You're very exposed to multiple positions, and he plays it so safely. Repix has gone into snow. Bit worried about a roam. Could go up the main stairs. Looks like Bliss just playing very slowly. They're hoping that Wildcard will start to make plays. I love this breach, though. Gonna make stock unplayable for Wildcard and really start to pressure those anchors. Oh, so close to that Claymore.
Free info there for Todd as well. Onto Pat. Not a surprise holding that position, though, inside a game. It's pretty standard here in bar games that you're going to have your hard anchor there, watching that big window, making sure that they can't just walk in for free.
I don't feel like Wildcard has enough pressure here. I think Bliss are so close to being able to just jump in those windows. Are Wildcard maintaining these strong crossfires upstairs? The problem here is Bliss, time is bleeding, and they haven't got a lot of progress. They don't actually have much map control. They have downstairs, but they haven't displaced these players upholding library, upholding top library stairs, mezzanine. Pat's starting to feel that pressure, though. How's he taking that damage from the fire? The cabin's out, Todd. And now Bliss are primed and ready to execute.
Yeah, they've cleared out backstock, so this is actually not too bad. No, Pat is so low. Todd actually taking a bit of damage as well from that gas babe. Emeron does get repics though, and there goes out yet another gas babe from Pat. So even if he does die here, job done. Able to stall out so much time with those gas babes. 30 seconds left. And he knows they're going to make that push. He knows they're going to have to come in from big window. Jigsaw finds a kill onto Geo. Pat's though very low, so he can't even allow one bullet to whiz by him. And he does get that kill onto Shade. Where's the swing? Where's the trade? Not going to eventuate. Oda gets a kill onto Vinny elsewhere. Jigsaw, of course, does Jigsaw things. But both players through big window are going to fall to the hands of Pat. But Jigsaw comes to the rescue. A 3K multi-kill to win the round for Bliss, and a 5-1 half has been established.
My God, Bliss are on a tear. 5-1 here against Wildcard on the second last Playday of Stage 3 of the Oceanic Nationals presented by Samsung. Wildcard are on the verge being sent into relegations. They need this win. They need the full 3 points. If I'm not wrong, Xenox,
Yep.
they need all 3, which means this round right here could be the round that sends Wildcard to relegations.
Yeah, they need all 3 points. So that pretty much would lock it in if they do not even head to... Like, OT doesn't even make a difference. Which makes it very much impossible, you would think, from here. They cannot literally allow Bliss to get a single round. They have to go 6-0 on the attack. It's not going to happen, Dev, right? I don't even want to sit here and try and falsify it and make it sound like a possibility. It's just not going to happen. They had some chances. There were a couple of rounds in that opening half that we can sort of look back to and say that they maybe should have done a little bit better on. Most importantly, the very opening round, they probably should have done a bit better on that one. And there was a couple of other sites as well. And maybe even that final round there on Bar Games, had they been able to get a little bit more of the fights to go their way off-site, because Pat did his job, right? Pat did his job on site. Unfortunately, though, everyone else kind of didn't, and they just basically forfeited everything. But yeah,
So I just saw the setup from Bliss there on the taller stairs. Todd, FO12 L up with the shield and 2 ADSs. This is a spruce strat if I've ever seen one. It's going to be so hard to clear him off. Trying to clear him vertically is going to be a headache because of the shield. Trying to nade him, I mean, he's got 2 ADSs. And trying to repel in, there's no way you're going to repel in safely. So let's see if Wildcard can deal with that shield. They've spotted the setup now. Oh, Shade shut down. Geo's having a decent game. I was going to say a great game, but I don't know if I can say that yet when they've only won a single round. Milo looking for his first kill on that slippery little roamer. The concussion might enable that. Jigsaw really put under the pop. That C4 shot out. Milo goes in for the kill, and he doesn't get it.
Nuh-uh.
This is how you break a dynasty and send the most dominant team Oceanic Rainbow Six has ever seen into relegations. This is how it ends.
How do
Not
you
with a
lose
bang,
that?
but slowly and with a whimper.
Man, Jigsaw is seriously... And look at Oda is 12-1. Oda is 12-1. Jigsaw is 10-2. Jeez. This is an absolute bloodbath. And to sort of re-specify here, this is a game Wildcard needed to win and get all 3 points. The possibility of making playoffs depended on it. This is not a dead rubber. This was a game to save themselves from relegation and to make playoffs. And they have capitulated, but honestly, I don't blame them because Bliss have just played out of their skins. Match point Wildcard confined to relegations.
Another day in the office for the new rising stars of Oceania. They have sent the old guard down into Relos to the depths. Wildcard will need to fight for their spot in OCN 2022 against the best teams the OCL can produce, and there is absolutely no guarantee Wildcard will see it through that. We may not see Wildcard in OCN next year, and the reason? Because 2021 is the start of a new era for teams like Bliss, for talent like Repix and Jigsaw and Oda to be the new faces of Rainbow Six in this region.
Bomb located by attackers.
I don't even know what to say. Utterly speechless. Somewhat heartbroken as well for what's happened to Wildcard being, you know, when I first started casting Siege Dev, when I came in for Six Masters.
They won everything.
They won everything. They were the team. I was on the Geo hype wagon.
They won 6 Masters 2019. Well, was it 2020? They won 6 Masters 2020. They won OCN 2020. And they look to be just simply the best team.
Yeah.
They won all of the August major, the November major, the local majors, that is, the Oceanic major. And come the end of year finals, they really copped their first loss. That was to Knights in that grand final. Very big upset. And then they lost Diesel.
And you know they're going to have to make
it.
changes off of this as well. There's just no chance that this core 5 is going to stay together in next year. I just don't know if that's a possibility. Hey, maybe that could be. And I don't know what relegation's going to be like for them. It's a tricky one to navigate. Do they go in as a team favored to do well against OCL teams or not? Do they make it back to OCN? Do they fight it out? Do they just disband? There's so many questions. We don't have enough time on the broadcast to go over. I'm sure the reload will probably cover a lot of the questions though, Dev.
No doubt. So tune in on Monday. I believe I have locked in Oda as our guest. Wait, let me just double check my DMs. Yep, he has locked in. So we're going to be talking to Mr. 12-1 himself on Monday.
Nice. It's under 2 minutes left in this match point round. It's a rather quiet one. Not too surprising. Vinny though with the opening pick, absolutely battling until the last couple of rounds has Vinny 6 and 7. He's been fighting, so is Imarin. Pat gets a kill onto Oda. Well, they're not looking to have their story end just yet. Still fighting. And Vinny with a double is now 7 and 7. At least can make the scoreline that bit more respectable.
Setup's being picked apart, and the fire forces Repix to move. Jigsaw versus 4, and Milo does finally get his first kill. Wildcard do keep this game alive. They are guaranteed for Relos, but they could still, in theory, push this game to its limit, push overtime. Unfortunately, it still wouldn't make them possible to make playoffs, but it might salvage a little bit of their dignity.
Yeah, and I am double, triple, quadruple checking to make sure, but
Please do.
basically, because they don't have the tiebreaker with Avert, for those who watched yesterday, saw that demolition, they can't make it based off getting 2 points.
So what's their maximum points right now is 2 from this game and 3 against Ruffle.
Yeah, and that's 8 points, which obviously Avert already have as the minimum.
Yeah, and that's Overt in 5th place. So
Yes.
there's no way that Wildcard can get 5th or better, which means that they cannot make playoffs.
Which means they can't challenge Rhythm for relegation.
Exactly, which means because it's between Wildcard and Rhythm for Relos, right? And Wildcard would need to be above Rhythm to even have a shot at avoiding relegations. So yeah, that's just not happening. So if you're interested in the math, there it is.
Pretty much. It's a shame for Vinny as well. 8-7 having a good game. And honestly, I think Vinny, out of everyone on this team, is probably going to ponder a lot.
He's going to take it the hardest, I think.
It's a rough year for him coming into a lineup that had so much success last year.
I mean, he joined them, was part of that success in OCN 2020, right? When
Yeah.
Ethan left, Vinny was the new Ethan. And he
Pretty much.
played bloody amazing as that new Ethan.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
And unfortunately, though, hasn't been able to see that success translate here this year without Diesel. And, you know, Milo's come in as well. And Milo, you know, when he came in stage 2, he was probably the best player on the team. The way that he was able to impact the stage when, you know, it was, again, a rough stage for Wildcard. And unfortunately here for stage 3, it just hasn't clicked. For whatever reason, it just has not clicked for Wildcard.
A lot of a roam going on still for Bliss, and Wildcard, funnily enough, attacking this quite similar to how we saw Bliss attacking, which was, to me, a bit strange. No, I was used to teams going from just, you know, take solar, take all the way across, but no, both of these teams on their bar attacks just kind of doing this thing where you kind of sit around, you take snowmobile, you put people outside library, put people outside bar, and kind of just pressure everywhere at once. Don't really commit to a lot of map control. It's so weird, I'm not gonna lie. It is really weird. I don't know why teams aren't taking solar and then taking office. Maybe I'm a bit washed up, I'm in behind. This is the new meta. I really don't get this, but yeah. Here's a nice way to get a pick, though. If someone watches this line, yeah, there you go, Milo gets the free pick onto Todd in stock. That's something we saw in OCL the other day, actually. It's a nice little way to get a free pick, but like you still don't have the map control to do much.
Yeah, and honestly, full credit to Wildcard here. It's very easy to just throw in the towel and say, well, that's it. They got that match point. We can't do anything from here. But they're not done playing, which is really nice to see that. Shay does get the kill onto Moloska. Lockerbie rings out around the map. Minute left still here in this round. Vinny with a nade, fighting tooth and nail here. I mean, and this is now a dead rubber. Like, you have to say, you know, why couldn't Wildcard maybe play like this in the first half? That's the Gemini. Shade's going to allow that to run through. Knows that Vinny's at that library window. And to be fair, though, Chalet, you know, generally does well for the attacking teams. So it does make a bit of sense.
I would say it's an attacker-favored map, but yeah.
It depends on the matchup a lot of the times. Vinny is kind of stuck here. He can't just get in. He can't get in this window.
That has a decent position. Emo is actually going to push through as well, but Shade, he could go huge.
Oh!
He finds the one. That's the diffuser.
That's
down
it.
on the ground, and you blink and you miss it. Bliss are the new team in town. They have taken down Wildcard, set them to relegations, taken them down 7-2. And are looking a shoe-in for that #1 spot in OCN Stage 3.
Yes, there's a little bit of water to go under that bridge, of course, for that top spot. Bliss will take on Order next week if they win that, and other results maybe go their way. But they would actually require Rhythm to take points off Knights if they are to get that #1 spot. And I say that top 3, though, is shaping up. And Chiefs losing earlier on this afternoon really has actually made it a very fascinating affair, which I'm sure we'll touch on later on tonight as we obviously finish. We'll get to sort of dissecting the night as a whole. But Team Bliss in the end, Vast, the expectations were that they would sort of cause a demolition derby here on Wildcard, and they did just that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to see kind of Wildcard's approach in this game. You know, I was really hoping that, you know, for a game that really matters for them, it, you know, has such an impact, that they would kind of take more risk and change it up a bit. I mean, we saw Knights, the way they played against Bliss, they matched their aggression, you know, matched their pace and brought the pressure as well, and it worked well for them. And, you know, I would have hoped that that would have inspired Wildcard to take a similar approach, but today, you know, they tried, you know, to stick to their game plan that they usually stick to. And it kind of almost felt like just their mental just looked defeated. You know, Milo struggling to get in the game till about round 8. And just some of the plays they were making, it just was really questionable for that caliber of a team. So for me, it just felt like they were just really defeated early on in that game.
Dev, it definitely felt like that Bliss had this one wrapped up pretty early on. To the credit of Wildcard, they did kind of fight a little bit there at the end, but it was too little too late.
Look, 4 rounds in a row to open the game. That's
the
pretty
game.
significant statement. It really put Wildcard in their place really early on. I think you kind of hit nail on the head fast. Like, I think Bliss are a team where you need to really start to put some pressure on them. You really need to just match their aggression early on. And pretty insane game from Oda, all things considered, 13-2. He ended up did die a second time. But, I mean, absolutely busted stats there for him. Crazy game. I will say, though, I mean, it was a team effort for Bliss, right? Like, it feels like if Oda hadn't gotten those kills, you know, someone else would have. They were just that good and that consistent. They walked all over Wildcard.
7-2 scoreline, the 4-0 start. It was rough. Vinny did as much as he could to sort of stem the bleeding. Beloska Pat with ones to forget. Ultimately, though, Oda put on an absolute clinic. 4.76 player rating, 13-2, +2 entry, 100% cost. And I'm already saying he ain't going to get that MVP tonight. He doesn't deserve it. Man does not know how to eat KFC at all. I'm Team Gars all the way in that regard. But guys, absolute clinical performance really as a team. Really, obviously Oda, Jigsaw, big numbers, but Repic, Shade, Todd, they just do all the little things as a team that make Bliss so formidable, Dev.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on something, Vast. You've played Bliss, like, you know, you beat them in the grand final. This Chalet was a map that didn't used to be in their map pool. Like, do you think this is the thing that they needed to do to kind of take that next step? And like, how close are they to actually achieving that and being a team that realistically can win a grand final?
Yeah, I mean, when we beat them in playoffs last season, I kind of immediately already knew that it was mainly due to the map pool. You know, they were just really comfortable with that BO1s and not really having to practice a whole lot of maps. And, you know, we were able to exploit that just because, you know, we practice a lot more maps and whatnot. And obviously Apex South helps being able to play more matches, which means that inherently we kind of do get a bit more practice on other maps. So it's kind of good to see, though, that they did realize that. They did sit back and, you know, analyze where they went wrong in their prep as well. And I think that was probably the best thing that they could have done. And they have shown that they, you know, the work that they've put into, you know, widening their map pool is paying off.
Let's go and have a chat with the man who's larger than life. He is Oda, of course, and I'm sure we're going to have an extended chat later on in the week. Firstly, congratulations on the win. Big win for you guys in terms of keeping up for, you know, first place, second place, etc. But ultimately, it was kind of saddening in a way because you can find Wildcard 2 relegations. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I hope they can make it out of it, to be honest. They have, what, Fury and probably big dogs from OCL to go up against, and I think they need to take it serious or else they will get relegated from OCN.
Yeah, pretty grim. I mean, you guys just did the final blow. It was the combination of a whole season. But Oda, look, you messaged me before the game. You said you can lock me in for Reload. Is that right? You coming on Reload on Monday?
I'm coming on Reload, boys. Be there on Monday.
Yes. Hell yeah. All right. Well, I'm just going to shout out Reload. I don't have any question for you other than that. Just shout out Reload, guys. Come watch me and Oda and the boys are going to be having a good chat on Monday night. Twitch.tv/Rainbow6ANZ. at 9:30 p.m. AEST. So look, okay, I will ask you an actual question, Oda. Do you feel like the addition of Spruce, you're really starting to feel the effects of that? I noticed you had like a cool strat on the solar stairs with Ella Shotgun. Is that one of his concoctions?
Of course, that's a Spruce strat. Yeah, no, Spruce, you know, you can see it. Spruce is in, our map pool's gotten bigger, and then coming into these games, our attacks are being like really clean, and like that's Spruce's work pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about kind of map pools, you know, you guys, your focus is now leading towards playoffs. Does that change the way you guys prep at all?
I think it just means we need to be confident on all the maps, really. We need to make sure we're 100% on all our maps, on like you know, at least 3 bomb sites on each map, our attacks are down pat, and be ready for it for when it comes to those best of 3s.
You got one last match, of course, before the playoffs. You've got that against Order. Is there any sort of like last little tinkering that you guys want to do going into that particular game? An extra map or just sort of play style, anything?
I'm keen for a new map. I'm sick of Villa, to be honest. And you know, I love my chalets. I love my chalets, little MVPs. But you know, I want to see another map from us, to be honest. Obviously, I don't want to show anything, but I want to see us play another map and see if we can bring that on game day as well.
Just last one before I let you do your shout outs. Do you think you should have got MVP tonight?
Oh, of course. I should always get MVP.
All right, give us your shout outs and your final thoughts.
Shout out to the fans, shout out to Bliss, shout out OBL Discord. Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, thank you for coming on for a chat. We'll have a chat with you on Reload as well, and best of luck next week.
Yeah, cheers, boys. See you next week.
What? He's forgot about Monday.
Well,
I guess Monday is next week.
Mate.
Yeah. Look, honestly, it was fun to chat with Oda and for Team Bliss. Second place at the moment. I think they're 1 point behind the Knights. They are, in fact, 1 point behind the Knights. So technically, guys, I'll go to you on this one, Vast. Destiny not quite in their hands in terms of top spot, but they don't probably need that #1 spot. I think even second place is still pretty good. You would know about that. Usually second wins the championship.
Yeah, second does win the championship. It's a little secret, you know, you get the warm-up game and then you're straight into it. No, but I mean, this season in particular, like, everyone's just really fighting for that. I just felt like the past seasons, it was a bit more clear who was going to finish where. And obviously for Knights, you know, Bliss and Chiefs, those teams, they're going to want to be as high as possible because, again, they don't want to be running the gauntlet. We saw Knights kind of, run the gauntlet last stage. They did pretty well, but yeah, they just kind of ran out a bit of steam. So, you know, having that advantage is really valuable to be able to, as well, just sit back and kind of watch your opponents as well, so you get a bit more fresh information.
Dev, it's turning into a top 3. It's a very heavy stage 3 here for OCN. But with the Chiefs losing tonight, of course, we can start to talk about some of the games that played prior. They do fall behind a little bit against Bliss and Knights and suddenly don't have that destiny in their hands. Third place might be on the cards. Is that going to be too far for them to make the grand final and ultimately go for 3 in a row?
Well, you know, everyone knows that second place is where you want to be. Both of the stage 1 and stage 2 of OCL, the second place team has come through the gauntlet and won the grand final. Both stage 1 and stage 2 of OCN, same story. So, look, who's going to be the one to change that trend? Maybe no one. Maybe we'll just see. I think it's likely at the moment Bliss who's going to end up in that second place. I think that they might have a pretty good shot. I think that, you know, Chiefs definitely have a lot of work to do after that loss tonight.
Of course, things can change with one play day to go. Let's go and have a recap of tonight's matches, though. We've had some that went to the expected result and others that did not. It all started with Knights defeating Order 7-3, a respectable scoreline, but one we expected. And then Rhythm did the unimaginable. They knocked off the Chiefs 7-4 in style, only for then Avert to not follow up with their work. They ended up losing to Rafflecopter, who keep their playoff hopes alive, and then Bliss doing the demolition job on Wildcard. Of course, Vast, though, when you look at this, it's hard to look past Rhythm beating Chiefs as the outlier. Yeah,
I mean, probably the game of the day for me. You know, the way Rhythm played was just incredible. You know, as I mentioned before, you know, it definitely wasn't a kind of Chiefs, you know, losing to themselves situation. I felt it all right. Rhythm just outplayed them. And yeah,
Dev, I'll quickly get your thoughts. Any thoughts before we go to the predictions?
Look, OCN's hard to predict, all right? Like, please don't hurt me. It's hard. That's all I got to say.
Nothing? Nothing? All right, let's just go and have a look at the predictions then, because I know Dev's still in last place. That is for certain. Although you've got a friend in Sky that has joined you.
Let's go, Sky.
Yes. And in terms of at the top end, though, it's still Guz leading the way. His doggies didn't quite get up today in the grand final, but he is still winning the predictions. That's where he is still king. And then there's me and Mandy, and then there's a bit of a gap after that. Even Vasta's starting to fall away, apparently at 13 and 11. But there was a couple of the avert picks that didn't come off. Obviously, Sky, Ducky, Manic, all having a bit of a laugh. I don't know why Manic went for order. Clearly just wanted to throw away any semblance of a chance of maybe getting a win. It basically is down to me, Mandy, and Guz. Let's be real with one Playday to go. But Dev, pretty clear. Everyone went for the Chiefs. No one saw Rhythm winning this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that you take the predictions a little bit too seriously, Xenox. Like, pipe down. It's not all about stroking your ego.
Only losers say that.
The purpose of the predictions, the purpose of the predictions are trying to give the viewers an idea of who is the favored for each match. So,
well, you do a crap job of that.
Yeah, I think I do a pretty accurate job of giving you an idea of who is favored. We just happen to have a lot of upsets. Look, today, for example. Rhythm won. We all guessed Chiefs. Doesn't that make it exciting?
Yeah, it doesn't it? So, Vast, any thoughts?
No, I think Dev kind of nailed it perfectly. I think this stage especially, it's been really hard to gauge with OCN. I think just with Overt's, with Overt coming in and Rhythm's performance, it's really shaken up everything, and it's made it really hard to just gauge where everyone kind of sits. In the past, as I mentioned, it was a bit more clear. You'd say, Knights, Bliss, Chiefs on top, and then Wildcard order right behind them, and Rhythm kind of more at the bottom. But this season, it's just everything's kind of completely turned around, and I think that's so much better, and it makes it way more interesting, and it sets up a very unique 2022.
Let's go to our MVP of the night, though. Of course, there were a couple of standouts, but we could not look past Sage at the very beginning of the night. Yes, obviously, Oda had an amazing end to the night, but Sage kick-started off the night in hot style. And honestly, Dev, again, I gave you a little bit of criticism at the start of the night, even though it's not your department. You still kind of help run the ship. 2.6 player rating for a man who got +7 on the opening KD. Hello?
You're saying that you're not trying to give me crap, but then you just give me crap anyway, so I don't know what you
want.
Yeah, why
not?
I mean, Sage went amazingly, and yeah, I was about to say, he found 7 opening kills, didn't die once to an opening death, ended up just absolutely having a field day. 4K in the opening round. Look at his reaction, wagging the finger as well. I mean, it was just amazing. It was so great. On attack, on defense, doesn't matter. This nade bait was perfect. And he's just so stylish as well.
Yeah, he was 12-3 there at that point. He ended up 15-5 to close out that game. And Order were playing pretty well themselves as well. So that was a nice little piece. Vast, Sage is such a good player and has really, ever since he ended up joining the Knights many moons ago, has really transformed them.
Yeah, I mean, I think this season he, maybe has struggled a bit. And I think that's, I'd put that to kind of what Dev was saying, taking more responsibilities within the team, more leadership roles. Last season we saw him with a lot more freedom, being a bit more of a fragger, and he was doing so well. So he's kind of, taken those new roles and is still doing good. He's showing that he still has it. And it's just incredible in Knights that, each one of those players can, step up when needed, and they all kind of share turns in that regard.
Let's go and have a look at the standings. Of course, much discussion has already sort of been outlaid around it, and we don't quite get the visual representation here, Dev, in terms of, like a nice big green line to sort of insinuate which teams have already qualified for playoffs, which teams haven't. But to simplify it, the bottom 2, Order, Wildcard, they cannot make playoffs. They're done. They're out. Wildcard even going to relegations. The top 3, Knights, Bliss, and Chiefs, they're locked in. And now it comes down to the middle 3. Rhythm, Avert, Ruffle. One of those 3 are going to miss out.
Yeah, look, Rhythm, I think they're looking very, very strong right now, but it does come down to this last Playday, and Rhythm, of course, have a very, very tough matchup ahead of them. Just going to double check I got the right one. Yeah, so Rhythm are going to be playing the Knights, Ruffle are going to be playing Wildcard, Overt are going to be playing the Chiefs. So, honestly, Ruffle have the best shot here. Like, they just got to be Wildcard. And the other two have much tougher matches. That said, of course, Rufflecopter are currently on the least points. So it does get spicy. You know, if Rufflecopter get a full 3, Overt get an overtime win with 2, and Rhythm get an overtime loss with 1, all 3 will be tied on 10 points. It'll come down to tiebreakers. I really hope that happens, honestly. I mean, like, that's what we need to see for the final Playday. 3-way tie on 10 points for that spot. But no, I mean, anything is possible here for those 3 teams. I think we're definitely powered up to have an exciting playoffs. I will just say as well, just because the top 3 are locked doesn't mean that their positions are locked. Our gauntlet format means that every place that you get above 4th earns you 1 free match in the playoff bracket. So definitely all those teams are going to be gunning for that number 1 spot.
Yeah, thanks for speaking over that entire graphic and doing a Xenox there. Vast, I'll get your thoughts on the standings, even though it's now gone away.
No, Dev nailed it perfectly. I will say, you know me, I hate kicking people while they're down, but I think Order and Wildcard might need to save some strats on the last Playday, hide a few things for relegations because they're going to need it. Yeah, I don't know.
Saving strats, eh?
I guess saving strats. Yeah, well, apparently Chiefs have already got some new strats ever since Vast, you know, the Carly's out. Apparently Vast had absolutely no idea.
Look how well it worked today. I don't know. You have some words to digital.
Well, I'll get your final thoughts, boys. I'll go with you first, Vast. On the day as a whole and as how things are maybe shaped up, there's final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've already kind of talked a lot about today, but I think it's really... you know, today could have ended. We could have had all the teams locked in for playoffs, but I think what was it, Overt losing really changed that. So that makes next Playday a lot more interesting. You know, it's not just a kind of seeding position for the gauntlet. But yeah, I think today kind of went almost as expected, except for the Rhythm result, I feel like. But yeah, I'm just excited to, you know, see who makes playoffs, and you know, I'm really keen for playoffs.
Dev, final thoughts, very quick here.
I'm keen for playoffs, but I'm keen for Playday 7. I think that is going to be so exciting. We've still got a playoff spot up for grabs too, so can't wait to see who books that.
Playday 7, of course, is shaping up to be a very important one. 3 teams still to decide their playoff fate. Before that, though, in a week's time, of course, on Monday, we've got the Reload. Special guest Oda coming on and having a chat. You can see the information down below, 9:30 p.m. Come out, hang with the boys, get some R6 credits, have some laughs, have some fun. It's always a great time. But, of course, Playday 7 for OCN will return next week. We hope to see you all there.
Bailey, the name was just a bait as well. He actually nailed him, and now Sage. Oh! No SMG, no worries whatsoever.
He hasn't been picked up here. Gold Legion gives it a half-decent check, but he doesn't give it the full deck. No, that's not allowed. No.
And Gold what are you doing? Gold versus Pistol. Digital's likely to get flashed, and this should be it for Cool Rhythm. On to match point against the Chiefs. Sawyer is gonna have to stick this. Hotshot will try to bait him out, but he might not be able to get the angle.
Oh, Hotshot!
My God, Hotshots! Really feeling the pressure now. 4 elements, the nade comes through.
He's dead!
And the cutoff from Winnable. He's going huge for Rufflecopter. Bliss just win 2 fights.
No, they're not supposed to. No!
3 fights.
What?
And
No!
they're gone. See you later, Wildcard.
What?
Emo versus 5. His smokes. He has time on his side. Ethan, surely a dead man. What is that shot? And now Chiefs can maybe do this. Fish has enough gas to completely choke up the Bricks door.
time as well is not on the side anymore of Rhythm. We are into red time, but Drex, who's had an amazing game on the sledge, 12-6-1, 2 versus 1. Now the bodyguard of Leb, the swing from Fisher, guys, denied! Rhythm! There are no relegations for this team! They can feel the...
I'm running out of time. I'm running on a feeling song. I'm running out of time. To leave it all behind. Let me see the rainbow.